So last weekend, I decided to be brave, doing dips and splits and bending over backwards to dodge the Delta variant, all so that I could see Candyman in theaters. And I have some thoughts. Candyman 2021 is the most recent sequel, kind of reboot to the cult classic Candyman franchise, which originally starred Tony Todd as the titular urban legend. This somewhat reimagining of the mythos comes from the mind of director and co-writer Nia DaCosta. And I want to say that up front because I notice a lot of people erasing my girl from her own movie. She's literally the first black woman to have a #1 movie debut, so props to her. I'm interested in seeing what she does for the Marvels. Jordan Peele does have a co-writing cred and produced this under his company Monkey Paw, but this isn't exactly a Jordan Peele joint. This version tells the story of painter Anthony McCoy and his art gallery curator girlfriend Brianna as he investigates a local urban legend as inspiration for an art exhibition. As Anthony dives deeper into the history of the Cabrini Green neighborhood, he unwittingly awakens an evil that lay dormant for years. The dark force of nature known as Candyman. It's Candyman. His name's Candyman. You say his name 5 times in a reflection and bloop, he shows up to gut you with a hook hand. It in some ways directly references the original film and mythology while updating it in some confusing ways that I'll get into. I was pretty excited for this movie since I saw initial teasers back in February 2020. It's been a year, y'all. It's been a year. It's been quite a year. Whew. Anyway, horror as a genre is really fascinating to me. Even though they don't do the thing for me, I don't really get scared of movies. I more just get disturbed by certain imagery. But I believe a movie can haunt you with its ideas, so I do like watching and studying them. A lot of times they're just entertaining. Like Freddy is a stand-up comedian. So taking probably the only black horror franchise character besides like Blackula and updating him for a socially conscious modern audience seemed like an interesting idea. Plus the shadow puppet teaser was everything. Like I was sold. Just a really cool visual idea and it works great in the film. But I'm not sure if it quite pulled everything off the way it aspired to. Critic consensus seems pretty positive on this one. People enjoyed the iconic character and haunting cinematography. The opening credits show this crawling drive from the high rises of Chicago to the residential areas, but it's from this angle like you're lying on your back looking up, and the tops of skyscrapers disappear in a sea of fog. It feels abstract and very underworldly. Not like underworld, but like the underworld, and does a great job of setting an off-kilter tone. Performances are great for the most part. The leads are just beautiful. Yaya and Tiana. Whew, wow, just love seeing them on my screen. Also love me some Colman Domingo. Honestly, just sprinkle a little Colman Domingo on everything. We love to see it. That's all well and good, but I want to talk about the themes. From the trailers, we could see that this Candyman was gonna be a bit different. Clearly, race and class were gonna be more at the forefront of the story, not just subtext. Some people think this is a bad thing just in itself, which I do not agree. I understand people don't like feeling preached to, but like honestly, subtlety sometimes. I'm fine with the movie being upfront about a message it wants to say because, no shade, a lot of people do not have the media literacy tools to really digest some things. It's a cliche at this point that so many people continue to misinterpret Fight Club and The Matrix. So a movie wearing its politics on its sleeve, I don't mind it. But then that makes me a little more interested in and critical of exactly what insight the artists have to say about it and whether they tell a compelling story. Like I said, reception is mostly positive, but it's interesting to see some criticism reenact a meta commentary within the film. Some people see it and think, oh, it's about gentrification, like this is simple and obvious and cliche, which is literally a point of view mocked by the art critic character. This is someone who shows up to Anthony's art gallery and she tries to call out his art piece as basically just saying gentrification bad, and even includes him in on the blame for the process. She claims artists descend upon a neighborhood for cheap rent and that leads to the turnover. I immediately thought about the documentary Detropia, which by the end almost feels like a commercial for gentrification. I'd recommend people check that out to see this dynamic at play. But Candyman, the film, kind of tries to show she's missing the point. Okay, so what is the point? A hint at it comes from something Coleman Domingo's character Burke says, even in the trailer.
Candyman ain't a he. Candyman's the whole damn hive.
Candyman ain't a he. Candyman is the whole damn hive. So what is the hive? We learn through Burke that the Candyman legend is a ritual tragedy. Over the decades, many black men in Cabrini Green have been killed and mutilated in ways that reflect and add to the legend. This ties Candyman 2021 to the origins of Daniel Rubatai in the original franchise, the fact there have been many Candymen. In Burke's personal experience, he was a man named Sherman who handed out candy to kids and crawled out of dark holes in the walls, low humming some tuneless melody, which, you know, almost feels like you tried to scare people. I'm not saying he deserved what, you know what, I'm just gonna leave that right there. The idea is that it's not the destruction of one black man or even one neighborhood. It's about systems, cycles of tragedy, systems of violence and exploitation. In the movie, Anthony finally responds to the critic, calling out her comment about blaming artists. Anthony mentions housing, the process of gentrification that is rooted in municipal policy and a real estate market that seeks to constantly drive profits. In a different facet, it's where we make housing a difficult thing to obtain without crossing all these barriers, then criminalize people for being unhoused or unwell. If you don't labor in the way the influential class wants you to, you will be seized into the prison system, which was basically slavery reform. You will be forced to do the labor that is useful to society as a proper worker bee, and the police, our killer bees, make sure everything functions as it should, with the occasional bit of violence if necessary. That's the hive. Gentrification is a honeycomb, a symptom. These ills are driven by policy between the state and influential moneyed interests, corporations and industry lobbies, the owning class, the Koch brothers, the Bushes, the Rockefellers, the families whose wealth is so entrenched and private, we don't even know their names. So the film dares us to say his name. But then there's a question, I guess, of whether Candyman is the right or best character to tell that story without it being confusing. Because in his original take, Candyman was killing a lot of black people, even though the violence that created him was white supremacist violence. The 2021 film, by the end, does a flip by creating a new Candyman who, I guess, defends the hood and kills murderer cops. The concept of reversing generational curses is interesting, especially in the context of black culture and black art.
Just say his name and I promise that you'll see Candyman.
Artists like Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce tell moving stories of reversing generational curses in their works Damn and Lemonade respectively. But the message in those works is pointing towards the device that allowed them to do such an extraordinary thing, namely Black American Christian faith, introspection, and love. The Dissect podcast gives a great detailed deep dive into both albums if you're interested in more analysis of those themes. In Candyman 2021, what is the mechanism for change? I don't really know. It's unclear why this time is different, how the hood reclaims Candyman as a spirit of vengeance. Is it because it was a voluntary sacrifice? Does Anthony choose to martyr himself? Because that's a troubling conclusion when drawing on real-life police violence.
Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice.
Unlike how some leaders choose to see things, George Floyd and others did not give their lives for America to learn a lesson. Either way, it's also unclear how much Anthony chooses what happens to him, whether possession or some kind of spell. So I don't really know what to do with this ending. I'm also not sure why those 4 white girls got slaughtered. Like, how are they contributing to all this? It was a cool scene, but kind of departs from what seems to be the overall message about systems. Does it deliver on thrills and chills? For me, not really. Again, I personally don't get scared at any horror movie, so that's not a deal breaker. There is some effectively disturbing body horror that made my skin crawl. If you have trypophobia, this will absolutely ruin your day. And it did leave me thinking and slightly frustrated with it, but not really in a bad way. In the end, I enjoyed what I saw, but it left me wanting for something more insightful. People seem to want to consider works related to Jordan Peele or stuff like them on Amazon as a burgeoning black or racial horror genre. And like any genre studies, I think it's worth mulling over and thinking about what exactly we want from these types of movies, these types of stories. I'm enjoying them for now, but we'll see what's on the horizon.
Do you mind keeping it down? If you don't comply, I'll tell the manager.
Wait a minute, we have a white entitled neighbor named Karen?
Karen. Oh dear God. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and do the things like, comment, subscribe and ring the bell if you want to see more, and share with someone if you think they might like it. This was a shorter, like less edited thoughts review thing. I'll be back with a more polished video essay very soon, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram for updates on those projects. Say his name. Peace.